Well, the Kremlin has been stepping up its assault on Ukraine, launching over the weekend its biggest drone attack since the war began. We're going to talk more about all of this now with France 24's International Affairs Commentator Douglas Herbert, who joins me on set.
Hi,
Doug, Ukraine has been pushing to use Western weapons to strike military targets in Russia. What really changes with this policy shift from Germany?
Yeah, is this just rhetoric, or is this a real doctrinal shift, and is it going to make a difference? The context here is beginning last year, actually, under Joe Biden, former administration. Biden had began easing the restrictions on the use of U.S.-supplied weapons on Russian soil as early as May 2024. So we're going back a full year. And that was significant because it was around the time that the Kursk incursion had just happened, and they were trying to basically shore up the Ukrainian positions in Kursk. So that policy shift had been noticed at the time, but you have to fast forward then to November. And back in November, what was significant is the U.S. Still, yes, the election was over. Trump was president-elect, but Biden was still in office. He authorized the use of what's called ATACMS, which are longer-range weapons. They have ranges of up to 240 or more kilometers, and basically for use to strike deeper inside Russia. So addressing what you were just saying, addressing that insistence by Ukraine, if we are going to be able to effectively defend ourselves against both Russian warplanes launched from military sites deep within Russia, as well as bases that launch cruise missiles that end up striking Ukrainian cities, we have to be able to reach them where they are in Russia. So these were all significant shifts. And subsequently, right after Biden had eased the restrictions on the ATACMS and the use of those weapons, Britain authorized Ukraine to use its Storm Shadow missiles, which are also air-launched missiles, shorter range, but it did mark a shift. So what's happened in the past is, yes, weapons have been used by, both British-supplied, French-supplied, U.S.-supplied weapons have been used to strike Russia, but they've been very limited in their mission and in their scope. So you've had the French and the British using some missiles, perhaps Ukrainians using French and British missiles to strike Crimea, to strike targets in the Black Sea. You've had launches against Kursk, so on and so forth, a few very limited strikes deeper within Russia. But this would be the first time what Merz is suggesting, and we haven't gotten total confirmation from the allies yet, but if his remarks are to be taken literally, it suggests that now you have a uniform, harmonized policy among France, Britain, the U.S., and Germany in order to authorize Ukraine to use all of the weapons they supply, long-range weapons for hitting long-range military targets within Russia.
The German chancellor also took aim at Vladimir Putin when he spoke. Is this a sign that Germany is actually hardening its stance toward Russia?
Germany is hardening its stance. It's not just a sign. And Friedrich Merz, when he was campaigning, he had suggested that he had, called on for the delivery of these Taurus missiles, these longer-range missiles to Kyiv. Now, it's still unclear whether his new remarks about this new doctrine saying, yes, Ukraine, all restrictions are lifted, they can hit using long-range weapons, hit military targets in Russia. Does that mean Germany is now going to move to the next step and deliver those Taurus weapons? But what he has been very clear about, and it alludes back to what you said at the outset, he says that the big difference between Ukraine and Russia in its military conduct so far, in the use of military weapons, is that Kyiv has been generally very meticulous, punctilious, in using those weapons to target Russian military infrastructure, military sites. He says Russia, and this is once again Friedrich Merz saying it, Russia has been almost indiscriminate, saying it only targets military sites, but the evidence on the ground from civilians, from the reports, from the actual damage, the aerial photographs show that time and again, Russia has said one thing, but in fact has used its weapons to target Ukrainian kindergartens, schools, hospitals, retirement homes, city centers, time and again. That's a big difference, and that's why right now, in the past, Western leaders were hesitant because they were scared of provoking Putin and escalating the conflict. I think they're like, all bets are off right now. It's impossible. The conflict's been escalated. You can't provoke Putin. He's always provoked. He's in a state of permanent provocation. We need to let Ukraine be able to defend itself. So this is where the real shift. Will it make a difference? We don't know. Russia's moved a lot of its warplanes and weapons to bases still out of the reach of even those longer-range weapons. So probably not a big difference, but symbolically it's a big shift.
Doug, thank you for that. France 24's Douglas Herbert.